The most important reason you need a doomsday plan. Today's episode is sponsored by Billy Keels Advisory Services. If you want to learn more about how to make your 99 optional, just go to makeitoptional.com. Once again, that's makeitoptional.com. The most important reason you need a doomsday plan is for you if you are the eternal perfectionist, optimist, and you consider to say you're going to do something if. I'm here to tell you and share with you that when things don't go according to plan, having a doomsday plan in advance is something that you are absolutely going to want to have. But this comes from a different experience, that I can never underline how important it is to be in advance, be proactive about the way that you go about things. Because if not, when things don't go correctly, it's very easy to fall into panic. Fall into bad decision making. So I've shared a lot recently, just the things that I am able to do in the time that I'm really working on, taking care of myself, the physical aspects, the mental aspects. And back in November of 2024, one of the things that I was able to do is like on a Tuesday or Wednesday, something like that, went to the Pyrenees Mountains and went on a hike. So, and I know I've talked about this, there's a lot of things that I'm learning on these hikes. This was a particular hike that I went on with just a very, very good friend of mine, just the two of us. We went hiking in the Pyrenees up near in the Aragon part of the Pyrenees Mountains. And we set out on an adventure that day, and it was an adventure that he knew where we were going, and I sort of knew where we were going because I was looking at it on this thing called Wikiloc. And if you're a hiker or a walker or you're into that, you actually know what I'm talking about. But this is really big in the walking community. And so, as I go through these things, there are a couple things that I wanted to do. Of course, I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to get into more physical fitness. And at the same time, I wanted to really ultimately try something new and be able to make it back safe to see my son. So that was like kind of the real thing that I wanted to be able to do. But what happened and what I'm going to talk to you about and why it is really the most important reason that you need to have a doomsday plan, it's actually something that happened while we were walking. And I realized that this is something that I want to share with you because it relates a lot to anyone who is a high-performing executive and you're focused on one thing during the day and you're also building a business at the same time. This is something that is important. So because as I realized what was happening on that particular day, this particular day was a bit overcast, and it was like one of those days where I was definitely wearing winter clothes because you're in the Pyrenees Mountains in November. And so it was cold, not freezing cold. But we picked out a route or a route, and then we started along. And before I knew it, something really, really strange happened. We, after walking for about an hour, decided, or maybe it was a little bit over an hour. Actually, it was probably a lot over an hour. We were walking, and we got to a certain point in the road, and it was like, all right, well, we couldn't actually see beyond where we were going. So I agreed that I was going to stop in one place and he was going to go even further, and he was going to check out kind of what was happening in the distance. And so as he was seeing what was happening in the distance, I stayed there. But more and more time went by. And so what felt like to me a half an hour, and because I'm someone who is still gaining more expertise, more experience in this whole hiking thing, because I'm enjoying it, but I'm definitely, as I talked to you in other episodes, I've been going out with a number of different people. This one particular time was just the two of us, me and another friend. And he went ahead, and I waited and I waited and I waited and I waited, and it felt like forever. And before I knew it, I was worried that something had happened to him. So I set out to look for my friend, and because I didn't know what to do. Like, this wasn't a scenario that we had actually talked about, like that we were going to be separated, because it was just the two of us on like a random Tuesday or Wednesday, like I said. And so the fact that we got separated was not something that, believe it or not, had taken into consideration. And so as I left my spot as someone who was less expert in terms of hiking at the time, now I've done a couple more hikes then, and this is one of the things that, and I'll talk to you about in a bit, why I think this is one of the most important reasons that you need to have a doomsday plan is for exactly what is happening here. Because I didn't stand still or wait for him to come back. I actually, because of some fear, because I was a bit intimidated being there by myself, I decided to go out and look for him because I thought something had happened to him. While that happened, of course, because I was concerned, because I was, fearful, intimidated, being in this new open area all by myself in the middle of the day with not a lot of people walking around, almost no one. I think we saw a couple of people, because who else is going to go walking on a Tuesday or a Wednesday in the middle of the week? But all the doubts crept into my mind. The fact that I couldn't find my friend, I wasn't a hiker. It was, what should I be doing? Because I didn't actually know what I should be doing. And what would happen if there was another group of one or two people that were walking towards me? What would happen? Would other people get me? All of these negative thoughts came into my mind because I didn't have a plan. We didn't have a plan. We hadn't looked at this particular scenario, which is completely obvious. If you're walking out, just two people, anyone else who's always walking would have made the assumption to stop and talk and make sure what happens if we separate. What is the plan? And so what I realized is, because I speak to so many people, and whether we connect because you're on my newsletter, or it's through the LinkedIn, or it is through, just someone who is, a client who's referred that we come into contact with one another, there are so many opportunities to recognize that we want to be optimistic, but we don't think about what happens when, not if, something doesn't go according to plan. And when something doesn't go according to plan, the best time to plan for that situation is before the situation actually happens. Because when it happens, it's so much easier to get out of control, because your emotions are running high. You're in a situation that you had not contemplated. It's something that you hadn't already walked through or talked through. This happens all the time when if you're, especially in the world that I lived in before, enterprise software sales, you are thinking about what is the, what are the plan A, plan B, plan C? A lot of times we talk about, specifically if you're in a negotiation, a BATNA, which is the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. So let me not go down that whole rabbit hole. But the idea is to think about it before it happens. So the good news in this scenario was I did find my friend, and we did make it to a safe place, right? But more importantly, I realized the importance of being able to discuss, review, and plan Doomsday in advance of Doomsday. And this is something I know recently I talked about, because these were things that were happening here, even just in Spain. But it's so important because I have this conversation so frequently that it's worth reiterating. Having a Doomsday plan in advance of Doomsday, and it doesn't have, I say Doomsday because it's just the worst case scenario. But when you're doing anything and you are planning for success, you should also be preparing for and planning for what happens when things don't go according to plan, hoping that it never gets to the Doomsday scenario. Ask me how I know. I've been through a number of very, very difficult and challenging situations. And now knowing that, thinking about those things, these are some of the reasons that these things happened for me in life, which is why I'm sharing them with you, so that you don't go through the same pain, frustration as I have, so that you can get to where you want to be even sooner, right? And so now it's about making sure in every single scenario that I have a Doomsday plan, and specifically working with clients to make sure that as you are moving to build a business on the side, a new additional predictable stream of income, that you are able to build towards that goal, build towards that vision, that dream, and at the same time, think about in advance what's the Doomsday plan. Because when things don't go according to plan, you've got something that you can have a quick check with, understand all of the different areas of your life that need to be covered in order to get you back on track. So hopefully this really quick story about what I went through on this walk with myself and another friend, and how it helps to drive home the point that it's the most important reason that you need to have a Doomsday plan is when things don't go according to plan, that you're not just out there reacting to everything. You have a place where you can go, you can look, you can understand, make reference to how you navigate to get back on track as quickly as possible. Okay. And out of the doom loop. So if you know someone, and I'm sure you know somebody who's going through this or has talked to you about it, or maybe you just know that the fact that you are listening or watching, you know that this episode can help a friend, just forward it over to them, just share it with them. And guess what? You're the person who's going to be making the positive impact on that friend, that family, that loved one. And you're the person who's going to be doing that today. So while you're doing that, guess where I'll be? I'll be right here preparing for the next episode. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very, very much. Today's episode is sponsored by Billy Keels Advisory Services. If you want to learn more about how to make your 99 optional, just go to makeitoptional.com. Once again, that's makeitoptional.com.